Conti, bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, goal!
Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host Ollie Fisher, back after a 1 week absence. I was out last week watching the England game, back when England were good and football was coming home. Joined once again by Madison, who's up in the top left for once.
Yeah, Mr. Inconsistent over here is just missing podcasts every other week. So glad to have him back. And we have the third one here, Anthony, at the bottom.
I went from host to fucking third podium. I'm glad because I got a pounding headache today, but also I'm offended. But I'm here.
Offended and in pain. Those are the two best things to be. Right. Anyway, before we get into the talking points for this week's episode, just wanted to let everybody know at the start of the episode, we've just launched a new merchandise design in conjunction with a guy called Farinho, who is absolutely excellent, one of the most talented illustrators I've seen. It's a pleasure to be able to release this. I know that he worked for a long, long time on it, and we're absolutely delighted with how it's come out. Basically, it's a celebration of the 2020-21 season, which obviously marked our highest finish in 10 years and return to the Champions League, most importantly. So as you can see, as Maddie's scrolling through, but those who are listening on audio, it's basically like a little collage of all the players in a black and red stylized design. There's some bits of text in there that are like famous quotes from throughout the season. Every squad member's there. I know some people have said, why is Donnarumma there? Why is Mandzukic there? Well, they were part of the squad, unfortunately, so we're going to have to bite the bullet on that one. But yeah, hope you like it. And to find that, you go to redbubble.com and then you can search for SempreMilan and it will come up. Or it's in that's our pinned tweet, or you'll be able to find it on Facebook as well.
It's also in the description.
So. Oh, and it'll be in the description. Excellent. So yeah, hope you like that. As I say, a lot of hard work went into that. It's actually the third design that Farinho's done for us. He's also done a Kaká one and a Gianni Rivera one, so check them out if you haven't seen them already. But yeah, we're really happy with how this one's come out, and we've had quite a few orders through already. So delighted that people are lapping it up. And every penny that we generate through that will go back into, funding more designs and just helping to fund what we do, really. So thank you for all your support on that front. Yeah, thank you for showing it, Maddie. Right, so we've got a signing to talk about. Last week was questions special. There's going to be quite a few questions in this episode as well. It's that weird point in it where there's two major tournaments going on as well, if you count the Copa America. Not an awful lot of movement on the signings front, really. There's rumours, there's speculation, but something did actually happen. It had been in the pipeline for like a week. They were saying done deal and all that, but on Thursday, it was confirmed that Fikayo Tomori has signed for us permanently. 4-year deal until 2025. Not that it means much, but normally we sign players on 5-year deals, and a lot of people were reporting that it was until 2026. But there you go, he's in until 2025, and absolutely delighted. I mean, it wasn't a well-kept secret. I think we knew that he was staying. We knew after the half season that he'd had that we were going to trigger that option. I think we tried for maybe a couple of weeks to negotiate that 28 million price down. And you can understand that, see what we're doing with the Tonali deal, which we'll come on to. Being able to save even a couple of million is important. But by the sounds of it, I've seen a couple of reports saying that we've managed to spread the 28 million fee over 3 years as a payment to Chelsea, which is good. And also, on the actual club accounts, it will go down as about 7 million a year because the fee can be spread over the length of his contract. So all in all, not a blockbuster signing, one we knew were happening, but got to be happy.
Yeah, I would argue it might as well be a blockbuster signing. It's the biggest signing we've made in a while. Where does that put him in the table as far as most expensive transfers? He's got to be at like number 5 or 6 right now, because we're not even that high. 40 is our highest.
Under Elliott, he's the 5th most expensive signing we've had under this ownership. There was Leao was Piontek, more.
Leao.
Yeah, Picata Piontek and Caldara counts, even though he was part of an operation. It counts as us signing him for 35 mil, which is ridiculous. So yeah, and then the Leao thing. I know what people are going to say. Like Jallo went the other way, which meant that we paid less actual cash, but it goes down as a 28.5 or whatever. So yeah, I think that's Elliot's thing, innit? They like spending between 25, 35 mil. You know, they ain't going to break the bank for a player. But a young player with so much potential has come in and shown a lot of promise after a difficult period at Chelsea. Like, let's be honest, you know, he impressed at Chelsea at the start, and then Lampard throws him out completely. So he arrived here as a bit of an unknown quantity to adapt as quickly as he did to the league and stuff. I mean, it was a no-brainer, really.
He was fantastic for him the season prior. He got a lot of game time there in that first season. I was always a fan. So happy, very happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice to see us actually buy the player that we loaned out. I feel like we learned our lesson with Bakayoko, and now we're not going to make the same mistake.
What do you think about the strategy? I mean, like, there's a few, what I'd say, reliable sources, Milan News, Sky, saying that our strategy now, based on the success of that operation, is we're going to be doing a lot of loan with option to buy deals, which I think, given the current market, because a lot of clubs don't have much money because of COVID and stuff, there's going to be opportunities that arise where we can get, just throwing a random name out there, but like Hakim Ziyech on loan with option to buy again because we've got good relations with Chelsea. The rumour is about Brahim Diaz coming back on loan with option to buy at about 20 million. Do you think that's the way forward, or is it like a bit of a sign of us hedging our bets and picking and choosing a bit?
So this isn't like a new strategy. This is what we've been doing for the better part of a decade now. It's just now we actually plan on buying those players if they perform, whereas before it was just to make them say yes to the loan, and then we lied about having an option. You know, like we never took them up. And in fact, with Chelsea specifically, Tomori is the first loan player that we bought from them that we've actually paid the money for. And I think like the last 6 transfers. I mean, you could count Torres, but we only activated so that Atletico could buy him outright. So there wasn't really money transfer there. But yeah, I mean, that's what we've been doing for a while, so I'm not surprised.
I like it because we're not going to go spend 30 million on a player and have them flop. We know that they're going to transition well into the league and play well, and we're just not going to be wasting any money.
Do you think that, and this has been alluded to by some media outlets, do you think that Elliot have been stung a little bit by Leonardo when he was the director, and we spent 70 million combined up front on Paqueta and Piontek, and it didn't? I know what you're saying. A lot of our deals recently have been loans with option to buy, but those two in particular, we paid actual cash, 70 million combined for those two, and they ended up being flops.
I think it has to have leave a bad taste in their mouth, but I feel like if like the option to get Haaland for 70 million came up, they wouldn't say no, because I mean, that's never going to happen. But if something like that happened and presented itself, I would like to think that they would do it, but not for an unproven player.
Yeah,
no.
Yeah, I mean, Maldini's mentioned before that if opportunities in the markets come up like that, then they're going to pounce, and that's exactly what Maddie's talking about. Like, I know this Ramos rumor came up. We obviously inquired, and the wage was too high, but that is one of those opportunities that we jump on. We see something out of the ordinary that's obviously a good player, then they go for it. But with Piontek and Paqueta specifically, I don't know if I'd label them flops. I mean, Piontek is obviously not too hot anymore, but when we got him, he was a hot prospect, and that second half of the season, he was fantastic. He was critical to us getting Europa League. So was Paqueta. It was just when Gattuso left, we had to start over with Giampaolo, and no one performed. And then when we came in with Pioli shortly thereafter, some people adapted quickly, some didn't, and those dudes didn't adapt quickly, but that price tag didn't allow them to have that time. So I don't know if I'd say they're flops. I mean, Paqueta's doing decent where he's at now. Piontek probably not so much, but that's just my 2 cents.
One thing I will say is we actually managed to set, the recruitment strategy has been centered around signing young players with high potential. That hasn't changed, because we have been stung by signing older players who have no resale value, and really struggling to shift a lot of the players that we've signed. I mean, just the midfielders in the 2016-17 season, for example, was just a real mess, like Bertolacci and players like that we just could not get rid of. We've been stung by that in the past, whereas at least with Piontek and Paqueta, we didn't make a loss on them because we managed to sell both of them for 20 million or more. Now that in itself is beneficial, because it's like, if you get one wrong in that sense, you get your money back, and you can have another go at it with the next player. Like, We sold Catrone, for example, after he started struggling to Wolves, and we spent that money on Leao, and now there's some doubts about Leao's future, but not for a second do I think we're going to sell Leao for 15 million or anything. If we sell him, it'll be because an offer of 30 million's come in. And again, we've made our money back and we can use it. So it is what it is. It's one of those cycles in football where you're going to get things right and you're going to get things wrong. For example, you look back at the January transfer window, I think we got 1 out of 3 right, ultimately. I don't think Mate was a disaster by any means, but he perhaps didn't give the guarantees that we needed in terms of midfield cover. Not a natural defensive midfielder, usually plays in a 3. But then the Tomori one was bang on and the Mandzukic one was the other end of the spectrum. It just didn't have the desired effect at all. But if you're doing loans with options, if you're doing free agent deals like Giroud would be, hopefully, then you're reducing your risk. I think that's when you start to see Elliott's strategy pay off. But I understand some of the frustrations from fans as well, who were saying that so much of a big deal was made about us getting back into the Champions League and what it'll do for revenues and how it'll have us with financial fair play. We'll be able to spend more, that kind of thing. I do understand the frustrations from fans who were saying there aren't going to be many improvements to the starting 11. A lot of our budget is going to go on keeping the same players that we had. You know, buying Tomori, buying a replacement for Donnarumma, keeping Tonali, and stuff like that. And I think people want to see shiny new toys. They want to see upgrades in positions. And I hope that comes later in the market, because otherwise I think... I always look at Lazio and think of the season when they mounted a title challenge for maybe, 2/3 of the way, and then completely fell off, and then have basically not got back into the top 4. And I just don't want us to stagnate in that sense. And I expect names to come up, and I expect us to strengthen still. I mean, Christ, we're still in June. But at the same time, I do understand some of the frustrations that we aren't actually spending huge money. But we are one of the only clubs in Europe actually to have spent over 40 million at this point. We've spent obviously 13 million on Maignan and now on Mignon and 28 million on Tomori. So that's that. And with Tonali, it would potentially go up to 55, 60 million. That's quite a lot when you think about it. That's probably that extra wedge of revenue from the Champions League. So yeah, Tomori's done. Where next? What do we do
that
next?
was something that we kind of anticipated as well. That was the whole point of these loan with option to buy deals, was get the Champions League, make these deals officials. So I do think that was the extra money. I don't think we've actually dipped into what we were going to spend, even with Maignan, because with Donnarumma even, that freed up obviously his wages, and that equates to the majority of the total fee for his deals. So yeah, we dipped in a little bit, but I still think we have like this window's budget set aside. Like I think what we've spent was already accounted for with that Champions League. It was a gamble, but we got it, and all good. So I think what happens next is probably going to be Giroud on a free, and then I think we're going to actually spend money on a right wing, be it Icone or someone else. I don't know yet.
I think that we are going to have one big name signing this summer. I just don't know who it's going to be. I would like it to be a number 10, but
yeah, that I read some. So there's 2 interesting things that have come out recently. The first one was an editorial from Carlo Pellegatti. You may or may not know him, but he's a well-linked journalist, and he's been covering Milan for decades. And he has this weird thing whereby he'll float an idea saying, I think Milan should go after this player. And then next thing you know, we're actually linked with him. And I feel like he sometimes puts stuff out there, having had it leaked from the club to get verification from the fan base, like the Ceballos thing and stuff that's happened before. But anyway, he did an interesting piece where he said, obviously we're going to take advantage of the deals that are cost advantageous to us, ones that are cut price or ones that are loans with option that we can get to reduce the risk. But he thinks in order to keep moving forward and to keep growing the squad, we probably need one substantial investment per window, be it summer window, be it winter window. So probably one player who's going to come in at the 30, 40 million range this summer and make a difference. And then Milan News also said, for example, if Çalhanoğlu were to renew his contract, then we'd probably spend a decent sum of money on a striker and on a right winger. If he weren't to renew his contract, we'd probably put money into someone who is, you know, an out-and-out number 10. So I think everything's a bit fluid at the moment. Like, obviously, a lot relies on whether Hakan renews. I don't want to talk too much about the Euros. I know we got a question about it, but based on his performance at the Euros so far, I think we should be reducing our offer to him. Genuinely, deadly serious. Like, nobody's even put an offer forward apart from the one in Qatar, and you know that they've got more money than sense over there, so they put forward $8 million a year. But nobody has come forward with an offer to match ours. So the ball's in our court. Like, we've got all the power here. I'd go back and say, look, upon reflection, $3 million a year and a few more bonuses. I'm sorry, but you've got to earn it. Otherwise, we'll start looking for your replacement. I mean, there's all kinds of rumours about we've set him a deadline. He's got to respond by this date. I hope that we have set him an ultimatum, because if he really wanted to be here, he should read the room that he only has one offer on the table and it's from us. He should have signed it by now. The fact that he hasn't is just...
read the room, and look what happened to Donnarumma. Like, we're not going to cave.
Yeah, exactly. Donnarumma meant something to this club, and we let him walk. Who is Hakan? You know, like,
well,
whatever.
People have said that. They've said, well, we set such a hard stance with Donnarumma. Why are we waiting around for Çalhanoğlu, who's a worse player? I think it's mainly because of the replacement thing. Like, we tied up Maignan so far in advance that we were able to play hardball like that. But then I think we did want De Paul, but then with other negotiations to deal with, and the fact Atletico was strongly on him and stuff, meant that we just couldn't sink that signing. And obviously he's gone elsewhere now, so that the offer still stands to Hakan. And if he does renew, I've got this gut feeling that he is going to renew after the Euros, and if he does, then we better invest elsewhere. You know, because
can he renew after the Euros? His contract expires before the Euros are up.
Well,
yeah, but then do we pull the offer?
I suppose it depends, doesn't it? Like, you know,
I mean,
he might be
if he doesn't
free
have
agent.
a club, I guess we could free agent, yeah.
Exactly, and it'll be like he didn't leave. But it'd be rare. I can't imagine many players have like the
Zlatan did it with United.
Ah, right, yeah. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens on that front. I feel like that's the key at the moment. And then sounds like there's 5 things that we're working on. So one of them is the striker situation. Giroud still basically in deadlock. Sounds like we've agreed terms with him, but it's whether he can leave Chelsea for free if they stick to their word on that. With Ibra, we ought to talk about that. Ibra has had surgery on his knee. I don't know how you say it. Orthoscopic, there you go. Surgery on his knee, so he won't be able to walk or run for 4 weeks, and then another 4 weeks after that. He'll be back for the start of the season by the sound of it, but won't be able to play any friendlies. So whether he makes that first game of the season, I'm not really sure. But the good news is it wasn't a major knee operation, and he's not going to be out for months and months.
I'm just curious why he waited till now. Like, if his season ended before the end of the season, like, why didn't you just do it sooner? You know,
I'm thinking if they weren't sure if they had to do the surgery. Like, I bet it was the last resort.
Which scares me, to be honest.
Yeah,
at his age, his knee history, it just, I don't know. I think Giroud is going to be a Zlatan replacement, and then we're getting a new guy to be the lead striker as well. That's what I think. I think that's
so.
Worst case scenario, but that's what we're heading towards, I believe.
Yeah, and if we have 3 fit strikers for next season, then that's good news, because we needed it this season when Ibra was out. I know what you mean about why didn't he undergo the operation when things were looking bleak originally. I know that they agreed with the specialist who'd operated on his knee after the United ACL, the one from Uni of Pittsburgh or whatever. He took a look at it and said conservative therapy will be fine. But then it just hasn't progressed the way that they thought. And the actual operation, I think, was to clean the cartilage. So it wasn't like a reconstruction or anything like that. So I guess it might be something that builds up over time. Like, they just need to clean out the cartilage. But yeah, I'm not an expert in that field. But all I know is 2 months he'll be out and then he'll be back. So I think we're definitely going to push forward now and try and get Giroud. I mean, Christ, at this point, even if they want 2-3 million, whatever it would be, surely you just pay it, get him in, have a full pre-season and stuff like that. Let's not haggle around over the sake of a couple of million.
And I think it's that if they ask for that, it would be a good sign of faith to pay it, because Chelsea is the team right now. They're the champions of Europe. Like, that's who you want the relationship with. You know, we had it with Madrid when they were the top dogs. It looks like they're kind of going to be falling off for next couple seasons here, but like you build those relations so that you can build your team. So if they need 3 million off us, and then somewhere down the road we get like a cut deal on Ziyech or something, then so be it. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and that would be, there's lots of beneficial stuff that can. If you look at our relationship,
if they need us
Real
to take
Madrid,
Timo on loan when they get Haaland, in a month, I'm okay with that too.
Timo, Timui, and Tammy. I take all three of them.
TTT.
Yeah, and then where were we? Yeah, the Tonali thing's one of them. Dalot and Brahim, trying to get both of them back now. I'm pretty simple on this. I wouldn't pay a fee up front for either of them. I'd have them both back on loan with an option to buy if we can. If it's set at around 20 million, 15, 20 million for both, I'm okay with that. Dalot had more game time than I think he was expecting last season, and I'm not surprised that he wants to stay. He played the most games of any season in his career. I know he's only 22, but even more so than when he was at Porto. And at United, he wasn't getting any faith. Mourinho left, and Mourinho was the one who wanted him so badly. So I don't think he wants to go back, really. I think he'd like to stay. And obviously, having
unless
like
he goes back and goes to Roma.
Potentially, you can't rule something like that out.
Yeah. I don't know. I like the Brahim deal because I've heard it might be a 2-year loan. So that would be essentially 3 straight years on loan with an option to buy. That's almost unheard of. That would be fantastic for a player like him with his potential.
And then we'll really know if he's worth it.
Yeah, it gives
if he's not good after
3
years, you boot him.
Exactly.
Imagine if we could have loaned Hakan out for 3 years. We wouldn't be in this position.
We never would have bought him.
Yeah, you've never bought him. The way and you think about Kessie as well. Actually, Kessie was a loan with obligation to buy. I think if it was an option, we might not have taken it after that first season. Well, it was a 2-year loan, obviously, but yeah, the thing with Brahim is, I think if you manage to get a 2-year loan and you manage to get an option to buy fixed in there at 20 million, two more full seasons in Serie A, you would hope he'll be able to adapt. By that point, he'll be 23 years old, so probably on the edge of entering his prime. And he might actually by then be like a 60 million player. And we've just managed to negotiate, like the Tomori thing, when realistically, if we wanted to, we could sell him for 50 million plus tomorrow. There were apparently Premier League clubs were queuing up, waiting for us to fuck up the deal. And then it didn't happen. So
I was waiting for us to fuck up the deal.
Same. Yeah.
Well, you see what Brighton wants Arsenal to pay for Ben White. Is that his name? Some fucking no-name guy? Like, come on, English players and English clubs for that matter are ridiculous with their money. So, yeah, bring it on. Buy Tomori from us in a couple seasons. 100 million defender. Let's go.
It is one of those. Or we just
keep him.
Or we just keep him. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't perform well, we could still get a huge profit on him and resell.
Yeah, I think we could.
Yeah, because he's got the English-born thing. So don't
exactly.
English clubs need so many.
Yeah, it's a percentage. I think.
Homegrown players. Obviously, he'd been at Chelsea's academy since he was 7 years old. He'd been there for 16 years, and I think it hurt a lot of their fan base, which I love to see. They were like pretty hurt that he'd actually left. But I think a lot of the responsibility for that falls on Lampard. He made him feel unwanted, and he decided to try a new experience. 23-year-old lad, been in England all his life. Tried it and loved it. He's learned a bit of Italian now. I was watching the Twitch stream with Mauro Suma, and it was just like he was loving it. Like he was smiling, he was happy, and it's just one of those success stories that not only makes you happy as a fan, but it just gives me immense faith in the people running the show as well. Like we're back to making competent decisions and stuff.
The kid's a star. Our fan base loves him. The Chelsea fan base did as well, but he didn't get the game time there. And you're not going to when you look at that squad.
Right.
The young kid versus Champions League winning bets, like who you're going to pick is obvious. So coming to us, being an out-and-out starter, being arguably our number one defender right now, great season. Of course he wants to stay.
And also, you just think about how likable our back four is now. You've got an academy graduate in Calabria who went through a struggle and has now bounced back and had a great season. Kier, who is a literal lifesaver, and he arrived as an unknown quantity and has established himself as one of the best defenders in the league. Tomori, who, for all the reasons we just mentioned, and Teo, who is, he's one of the best attacking. Yeah, one of the best attacking fullbacks in the world, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's nice. We've got a bunch of likable players now. Like, going from being completely apathetic about those teams from a few years ago when I really didn't like anybody. Now I'm just happy. Happy with how everything's going. And then we'll see what happens in terms of other. I think if Romagnoli leaves, we'll sign another centre-back, but the guy who seems to be going for at the moment for backup left-back is Junior Firpo, who is contracted to Barcelona. I think they signed him from Real Betis. I haven't seen him too much. I don't know too much about him, apart from there was the game in the Champions League when Inter needed a result against Barcelona at San Siro to go through, and Barca's B team showed up and beat them. And Firpo started at left back for him then, and I remember thinking he looked amazing. I think Pedri played, and I think Ansu Fati played in that as well. And you just looked at it and thought, "Whoa! If that's their B team and they're beating into strongest 11, then I think we're in trouble." But people who have watched La Liga, he didn't play loads, but people who have watched La Liga say he's good. He's an attacking fullback. He's quick, technically sound, all that. But again, sounds like it's going to be a loan with options. So pay a little loan fee, and who cares if he's rubbish? We've tried it, but it could be that he's a gem. And it sounds like he wants to move as well, which is good because we tried for him in January, and he'd just become a father, so he didn't want to uproot, and that's fair enough. But this time around, it looks like we might get him. And then the final thing is the Tonali deal, which we'll talk about because we got a question about it. But yeah, everything's firing. I like that we're trying to get things done early. I think June is going to be the month on reflection where it'll be about buying players permanently, extending loans, trying to deal with some renewals, and then I think July and August we'll start to see a bit more actual movement. Once we've got more pieces in place, we'll know the gaps that we need to sort out, and do it that way.
That's the way it should be. I mean, that's when the window actually opens. So
exactly.
It's good to see the club running the way a business should be ran, instead of just kind of
1st of July? Yeah, right. So there you go. I mean, obviously, the Mignan contract is from July 1st onwards, so I guess you can pre-agree some deals. But yeah, that's when a lot of the movement's going to happen, definitely. And late market opportunities is going to be a thing as well, I think, more so than most years. I say with what COVID has done to revenues and stuff like that, you're going to find clubs who are scrambling to get players off the wage bill so they can get that signing in that they want. So that's where a Ziyech might come up as an opportunity, or someone from Real Madrid, or something like that. So
I'm curious to see what happens to Ramos, because the clubs that can afford those wages don't need him, right. And then with Varane announcing that he's leaving as well, I could see Madrid saying, actually, hey, here's that offer again. You want to sign it now, because he said in his goodbye thing that he wanted 2 years. They said 1, and then he accepted it, but they told him it was too late, so they pulled it back. So I could see them going back in and re-signing them later.
It's funny how many people slated Real Madrid for that stance, and then realistically we're praising Milan for doing the same thing with Donnarumma, saying, sorry, the offer's not there anymore, we've got somebody else.
That's a different position, or different situation, I think.
Yeah, one with the club for 16 years.
Yeah,
he won 5 Champions Leagues.
I
4.
Yeah, it's a bit disrespectful.
And captain for a decade or whatever it is.
One is 23 years old, 22 years old.
We've heard his side of that story, though.
That's true.
We've not heard the side of the story where he actually refused to answer for a month or something, and then they said, "Well, look, sorry, the offer's not there anymore. We're going to sign somebody else." But because they signed Alaba, aren't they? They're paying Alaba a lot of money, and I think they're going to regret that. To be honest, I know he's a free agent, but they're paying him like $15 million a year.
It is a lot.
Isn't Boateng available?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep banging that drum. I'd love that to happen if Romagnoli were to be sold. But
even if Romagnoli's not sold, we need depth.
Yeah. Interestingly, it sounds like we've settled on Kalulu being a centre back. Not sure how I feel about that one.
I mean, I don't
he
think
showed
he did
up
bad.
when he.
No, I know. It's just a height thing. And I know it's simplistic because you think, well, Mascherano played centre-back effectively and he wasn't very tall. But when you saw him get beat for that second goal at Genoa, I'm thinking, might he just be better moulded into a right-back? I don't know. But I don't know how I stand, where I stand on that either, because I wouldn't mind us loaning him out, but then what if we were to have another situation, another defensive crisis where we're having to play fullbacks at centre-back, like that time Abate played centre-back and had the best game of his career.
It seems like every season we have one position that's under crisis and we start having to mix and match stuff. So it would be nice to just have like 3 sets of players for each position, but obviously that's, a tall ask, a lot of money involved in that.
Wait until we make the Champions League final, then we'll have that many players.
Yeah. But I think there's an interesting, because there's been a lot mentioned in the media about how we're kind of trying to follow Liverpool's model of escaping from mediocrity and then going to being a contender through wise signings, through and then you look at Liverpool, obviously won the title, won the Champions League, which I'd take at the moment. I'd love a Scudetto and a Champions League to celebrate, but then their drop-off this season because of injuries was really bad, and the players that they signed to plug the gaps because of injuries didn't really work out. In the end, they managed to get top 4 just about, but it was looking like they were going to finish about 7th.
And I wish they would have.
Would have been great. Would have been great. Right.
If you were to tell me that we'd win the league and then the Champions League and then finish 7th the next year, I'd still say, okay, I'd take it.
Me too. I want the trophies. All day I want the trophies.
I'd take a Champions League. And I don't know. Because finishing 7th would just fuck us.
No, I don't. I mean, I don't even count us as behind Inter, to be honest. They won this one without paying for it. And also they got
to liquidate the club.
And also they got handed that one in 2006.
And the 2 after because there was no competition.
So there you go. I mean, they're actually on 14, 16, whatever.
14.
Yeah, and then that's good.
Give them 10.
And then what's the final thing I was going to mention? It's completely gone. Oh yeah, midfield. Right. I don't know if we've talked about this before, but it seems like we are going to invest in a midfielder because Kessie and Benacer away for the African Cup of Nations throughout January until early February. Some names are starting to come out. One of them was Bakayoko, interestingly. There was a French source who mentioned that we might be interested in him because we met with someone who's like an intermediary for him or something. I would only be interested if it was another loan with option, to be totally honest, but I wouldn't be against him coming in because you've got to remember that anybody that comes in now is essentially going to be a 4th choice midfielder. They're coming in to fill Mete's position in the depth chart. So it's going to be a tough sell.
It would never be a loan with option for Bakayoko. This is the last year of his contract. So it would either be a straight transfer or just a loan, and Chelsea's essentially letting him walk,
Oh, what about when they exercise their unilateral option to extend it for a year?
They seem to always have that, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're good negotiators. I'd love the club to be run like Chelsea. Bakayoko's one of the names. Boubacar Kamara, who I remember bringing up before, and you two haven't seen much of him, but I would be happy with that. He looks a real gem, and he's only 21, so I feel like he'd kind of accept a role that he has to grow into. Boubacar Kamara plays for Marseille. The only problem is he's a boyhood Marseille fan. So I still imagine that he probably renews his contract there. But, is what it is. And then a couple of domestic profiles have been mentioned as well. Couple of Bologna midfielders, Svanberg and Shooten. But what I imagine with that midfield thing is that we probably address it late on in the window. Because we've already got 3 good level midfielders and then Pobega returning from loan. It might be something where last couple of weeks of the market, we see what's available and then bringing up. And it can also be addressed in January, in theory. If we get something lined up for the first week of January, then we're covered for them going away. But I think that's one to watch, definitely. Questions?
Pull them up. We got listener questions.
Yeah, I actually wrote them down because I forgot Maddie can now pull them up. I'm going to go with the first question so I don't forget to ask it from Mitch. And he asks, what's going on with the Tonali deal? Are we really in danger of losing him? No, I don't think we are. Based on what most of the major sources are saying, both sides want the deal to go through. Tonali wants to stay. It's just whether we can get a discount or not, really. I think we'll pay the amount if we have to. But, Brescia have been kind of backed into a corner. They can't really take him back because they failed to get promotion back to Serie A. I think they're going to struggle to find another buyer for him as well. And also, if we don't sign him permanently, they have to return some of the loan fee that we paid up front as well. So they're going to have to agree to kind of the best offer that we put forward, which is a good negotiating stance to have, a good position to start from anyway. So no, I don't think it's a threat of breaking down.
I agree with everything, but I think it's kind of shitty to do to them. Like they're not a big enough club to like a normal club. They in a situation like this, they could just back out, and someone else could buy Tonali. But I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's just bad for a relationship. Brescia's probably not going to have another player for a while that we're going to want to sign, so it's not going to make a difference anyways. But
I was going to say, but it's still like a bad look.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like, hey, little guy, you don't have a choice. Let me lower this by $10 million.
It's bullying. It's being mean. It's picking on him. But whatever. I guess I've said it a million times. The only club I care about is Milan. So I guess I'll stop crying.
Well, it's funny because Brescia actually do have a friendship with us. Like the relations between the two sets of fans and stuff have always been good.
Until today.
Yeah, maybe. We were actually linked with one of their centre-backs, Sistana, I think it was, but I'm guessing based on the seasons that they've had recently, that's probably a no-go anymore. But yeah, it'll get done. But I agree with what you're saying. It feels a little bit shitty. Now, if I'm Tonali as well, I'm thinking, they don't have loads of faith in me then, if they're trying to get to pay 5 million and not 15 million for me.
Yeah, we already talked it down 10 mil. And they were willing to do that, which is huge, especially for a club that small. And then to come back a week after agreeing to that new price, say, actually, we want to pay you half of that. It's like, come on. I don't know. It's mafia level bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
Rude. It's extortion.
Here's the next Kaká, Giacomo Alza going the other way. I think there is actually... Well, yeah, there are mixed reports about whether it be permanent or on a loan. Then he want Colombo throwing into it's turning into one of those NBA style trades, where they're just throwing picks in and here's Colombo on loan if you let us have him for 5 million and stuff. And it's getting a bit complicated
and I think that would be fair, give him two promising young talents that they could develop for us and a little bit of money on top of it too. Like that's fine.
Yeah, and do it like a 2-year loan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would do 2-year loan for both of them. I mean, they're both 18 or 19, so I mean, they ain't going to be ready for another couple of years. I'd even say here's Daniel Maldini. Not that they're going to do it because they want one club man and all that, but I'd just chuck them whoever they want from our Primavera because our Primavera is shit.
I think they wanted
team.
Maldini and they said no.
Yeah, that's probably the case. I think it's going to be difficult for anyone to get him on loan, to be honest. I think Monza tried and we said no. Right, yeah. Maddie, read out. I can't read those, so Maddie, read out next question.
You want me to read? Great.
Can you read?
I don't know. We're going to find out. Darren Torres.
Yeah.
Great work as always. Entertaining stuff despite being off season. What are your views on Yarmolenko, some other probably Ukrainian players? Rumors?
Are you not even going to attempt
Why are we having Maddie read this?
Yeah, all right. Okay, I've got it here. Anyway, it's Yarmolenko. He doesn't mean Yarmolenko. Sorry, Darren. He means Yaremchuk, who's the striker for Ukraine, who we've been linked with in the last day or so. Because obviously, naturally, Shevchenko's recommended him to us. That's how a lot of these Ukraine-based rumours start. It's something to do with Shevchenko. But he's actually played well. He scored twice in 2 games for Ukraine at the Euros. He scored 20 goals, albeit in Belgium in the league last season. He's 25 and apparently would be available for 15 million. I like what I've seen him in at the Euros, but I don't know enough on him to be like, yes, this is our guy. But if the scouting department and whatever like him and think 15 million's another loan with option to buy deal, apparently, and they think it's worth doing as our third striker, then I'm not against it. I would have liked someone like Edouard or something, but it seems like he's slipping away now. Right, next one. Kaladzic, innit? Yeah, he's also doing all right at the Euros with Austria. He's 2 meters tall. I think he's 6'6". He has been called the Austrian Peter Crouch, and he says that he doesn't mind that.
That's a compliment.
I think that's quite funny. He's like, yeah, Peter Crouch scored 50-odd goals for England, you know. Now, he's apparently a bit more expensive, 25 million, they're saying, in Germany. He had a good season for Stuttgart, though. A really good season. He's 23. How do I feel? I mean, I'm always wary of buying strikers from the Bundesliga now for some reason, because I just feel like the way that league is, it inflates a lot of the numbers. You know, there's a lot of 5-3s and stuff in Bundesliga. However, he's a guy who I mentioned in January in a tweet when I was looking for potential like deputies that we could sign in January, and he stuck out to me as a player who would be like Ibrahimovic in terms of his size, but also he's good with the ball at his feet and he's good build up forward. So if the price was right, I ain't against that either. Like, there's going to be a lot of options that are like this, you know, that fit the kind of mold that we want. It's up to them. The directors have paid the money to decide which one's the best one, but I'm not against Kaladzic either. I watched him the other day. He came off the bench for Austria and he absolutely changed the game, to be honest. He looked like the best player on the pitch when he came on, but I'm wary that the Euros is where anything can happen and everyone's kind of playing out their skin to an extent, apart from Hakan. And then final one is Zaccagni from Hellas Verona. Sky is saying that that's one for if Çalhanoğlu doesn't renew. Now, I'd be worried if he's the guy that we've got lined up to directly replace him. You know, we have him in mind as our new starting number 10, because I don't think he's really at that level. He was hit and miss for Verona this season, but he ran us ragged in that 2-2 draw earlier in the season. One of the only players I've seen get the better of Calabria this season. And I said at that point, I really liked him because he can play on the left wing as well as a number 10. If we can get him and it involves Caldara or Conti going the other way, which is apparently how it would be, I'm all for it, you know, because attacking depth is important over defenders that, you know, have no place in the team at all. Caldara and Conti are going. So if we can ship one of them then and get him in on the cheap, I'm all for it. But as I say, I'd be a bit worried if we thought he was our new starting number 10. That's it, I guess. And then next question.
Would you like me to read, or?
Yeah, you can read it, mate.
All right. Baresi the Goat 6. Keep up the great work, guys. Love the new collaboration with Shirt. I'm glad that the management is looking to strengthen the midfield, knowing that Benacer and Kessie will be out for AFCON. Who would you guys like to come in to give us depth? He suggested Pacina and Pulgar, which Pulgar is actually not a bad shout at all.
I like Pulgar. But the problem is he takes penalties. So what would we do? We have to alternate with Kessie.
Well, no, he's saying when they're at AFCON, so it actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh, right. Well, this is the thing, innit? Benacer and Kessie are away for a month. You know, they're not away for a season. So it's like, can we get by in those few games without them? Can we just sign somebody cheap to partner with Tonali for those games when they're away? Or do we make a serious investment and say, no, let's have 4 really good central midfielders going into next season? I think Pioli wants the investment. Pacina doesn't play there. He plays further forward. And Pulgar's not a bad shout, to be honest. Of the names that have already been mentioned, Kamara would be my pick. I like him. Then there's Fofana at Monaco, who we were linked with, and he's a similar mould. I don't mind shooting either at Bologna. We ain't going to break the bank for a 4th choice midfielder, so it's just got to be someone who can come in and reliably do a job.
Yeah. It'll be someone on loan, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, no big name.
Yeah.
I could see Bakayoko.
Yeah, I'm thinking it too, honestly. But it's not a necessity. Like I say, it's 4 or 5 games max. Like, we'll be good. You know, we'll survive.
4 or 5 games could have changed the league this season.
Yes, it could have.
Well, it was around about that time this season when things started to go south. So
it is.
Yeah.
Purple Bucket.
Yeah, you can read.
Okay. Christian Espinosa at Purple Buckets. Do you think Milan will actually try to land a $40 million player, or will they just keep trying to find diamonds in the rough and lowball everything? I think we're going to do both. I think we're going to lowball everyone as much as absolutely possible. But
We're owned by an American hedge fund. Of course, we're going to lowball everyone.
Yeah, exactly. A vulture fund at that. Like, that's what we do. We look for the cheap shit that's about to die, and then we give it life. So I expect lowballs and one big investment.
Right, I think if the opportunity presents itself, we're going to spend some money.
I think like it's one of those where I know I've mentioned it before in previous weeks, but I think we do a detailed cost-based analysis on pretty much every transfer target that we have. It's the reason that we offered 12 million for Simakan and weren't willing to meet the 15 million that they wanted. You know, we set our stance. No, we've done our evaluations. He's worth that much, and we're not paying any more. We did the same with the renewals. GGO's walked now, obviously, as a result. Hakan, when we haven't raised our offer by a penny. And the same with signings as well. We're negotiating hard because we're trying to get value for every single cent that we spend on the wage bill and on transfer operations. So I think that if we do make a big splash this summer, it'll be A, because we can afford it, obviously. It's not going to land us in shit like the Paqueta and Piontek ones did. And B, because we really think that they're worth it. It could be that it's a Berardi type. You know, we after the Euros, we sit down and say, look, 30 million for Berardi, take it or leave it. And they take it because he wants to move on and try something new. And we're like, bang, crowd. The fan base is hyped all of a sudden because we've got a big upgrade on right wing in terms of goal threat. And everyone's happy. It's a kind of signing that gets you off your seat. But don't know, as you said, AJ, I think it's going to be a bit of both. We're going to try and fill gaps in the squad that aren't necessarily the most important, like the backup left-back role, by doing things like loans with option to buy. And then if they really impress and we've had another good season, we've got the money to keep them around. If not, we move on to the next target at the end of the next season. Good strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it works.
Why overcommit resources to things that you don't know are going to work? But there will come a time, again, as we've mentioned before, there will come a time where you've got to be serious, you know? If there's a bidding war for a player that you think is perfect, sometimes you're going to have to spend that little bit more to get them. Otherwise, you'll regret it when you don't get them and they end up to be a massive success. We turned down Haaland, for example. One of his agents, one of his entourage has revealed. And then here we are, probably quite regretting that. So sometimes you're going to have to bite the bullet and pay a bit more.
Yeah, but Haaland could have been a completely different player if we signed him. He'd probably suck.
Yeah, he was at Molde, I want to say.
Molde 2.
Was he? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was before Salzburg, wasn't it? So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he wasn't even in the top flight of Norwegian football. Like, no one's taking a punt on that kid at the time, you know?
I know someone who played for Molde. Fun fact.
Where are they now?
He plays for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds now.
Riverhounds?
He tore his ACL like 4 times, so. And I know him. I went to like middle school with him.
And he's still playing. He's done his ACL 4 times, and he still thinks that he's going to strap on the boots. And
I don't understand. I'm just like, dude, you should probably just.
What is this American thing as well with sports names where they just throw 2 things together? Riverhounds.
That's a dog.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've never heard of a riverhound, but anyway.
I think AJ's talking out of his ass. I've never heard of it.
Okay. Well,
it's like colleges and stuff, though, with like the fighting Irish. That's fantastic.
Never heard of,
but at the same
never
time,
heard of Fighting Irish?
Fighting Irish, man. Yeah, we should know.
You've never heard of Notre Dame?
I've heard of Notre Dame. I'm just saying the nickname for him is kind of funny. Anyway.
All right. Anyways, from @LewTuck18. What are the chances we switch formations to a 3-5-2 or any semblance of a 3-man back line? How good would Belotti be for us? I think he's a striker we should really push for. You didn't watch the game today because Belotti was awful. He was awful.
Yeah, he wasn't good,
in my club. Was warming up to the idea because I think he was going to be cheap. But yeah, I don't want that guy anywhere near my club. As far as formation change, I think a 3-5-2 is not a bad shout, but also I would prefer us go 4-3-2-1. Go Christmas tree and just fuck off the wingers completely. So that's what I would like to see.
Yeah, Belotti, I've said it before. If the I know he had a bad game today. There were quite a few Italian players that had bad games. They weren't really at their best today. Belotti missed chances. But one thing he does do is score guaranteed goals in Serie A. He's got double figures now for 6 seasons in a row in a pretty shit Torino team. So do you know what? If it were like 10, 15 million, I really don't think it's a terrible investment. I understand why so many people are calling for it. But I think for our investment in a striker position, to pay an actual fee, we want someone younger. We want someone who's 21, 22, 23, and has plenty of room to grow. With Belotti, what you're getting is the finished article, and he was better 2-3 years ago when he scored 26 goals or whatever it is, one season. I get it. There's a romance to it. He's a Boy of Milan fan, and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's one of those where if we wanted him, we'd have got him by now. You know what I mean? Like, the deal is that obvious. His contract expires in 2022. We've made offers in the past, but didn't go back in for him. I just feel like if we really, really wanted him, he would be a Milan player by now. And I think we're looking at other targets, rightly or wrongly. Belotti might go and score 20 plus next season, and the guy we sign might flop. But I trust them if they say no to that deal. And then the 3-5-2. I mean, I'm flogging a dead horse at this point, but I've said it before, for our squad and stuff, it makes a lot of sense on paper, but I don't know how it would work when the actual dynamics are out there on the field. I think if you had a 3-man back line, you could definitely make the most out of Kier's anticipation, Tomori's pace and aggression, and then also it probably get the best out of Romagnoli as well, because having cover over both shoulders would be ideal for him. That's the one thing that he's really been lacking when he's been exposed by Teo bombing down the left. I mean, Teo could be a wing back. We know his defensive responsibilities aren't the favourite thing for him. And then Calabria, I don't know how he'd function as a wing back, but you've got Salamakers who can play there if not. And importantly, 2 up front, I think that's a big deal. Playing, sort of having the ability to play someone off Ibra, be that Leao or be that Rebic, could be tempting. When we went 4-4-2 at first, and it looked great with Leao and Ibra together up front. I think if there's any kind of way that we can make that happen again, that'd be fantastic. And then your midfield 3, you get Kessié, Benacer and Tonali together, if that's what they decided to do. And again, I say it works on paper, but I don't know if it would work in practice. That's the only thing.
All right. And the last question from @Nikki__pass. Best Milan player at Euros. We all know who the worst is. I think worst is definitely Hakan. We're going to go with, right?
Yeah.
Pretty.
Oh, yeah.
Sounding.
Rebic is pushing him close at the moment, though.
Yeah,
Rebic is not having a good
Who's
tournament.
the best? Who else do we have besides
Kier?
I mean, Kier.
It's got to be Kier, hasn't it? Because he literally saved someone's life. But he's also performed well. I think he was half at fault for one of Denmark's for Belgium's equaliser against them, but also there was, I don't know who his partner was, also got dragged out for that, and also it was Kevin De Bruyne, and he's probably the best creative midfielder in the world, isn't he? So you can let him off. I'll say Kier, and then apart from that, I don't even think there is anyone else, is there? We don't even have a.
Do we have?
Donnarumma counts, doesn't he? Because he's under contract still with us. But
I mean, until tomorrow, he's got his medical tomorrow.
Yeah, by the sounds of it, yeah. Fair. I want to say actually, fair play. I said I wasn't going to talk much about the Euros, but fair play to Italy. They have won 3 group games out of 3 without conceding a goal. I stand by something that's might rattle Jan if he listens back to this, but they're 30 games unbeaten. Fair play. That's nothing to be sniffed at, but they actually haven't played anyone decent for over 2 years now.
They haven't played anyone like Scotland,
Oh, man. Yeah. Less said about that, the better. It's still coming home. So fair play to them. And then who else have I been in? Oh, yeah. There's no outright favourite for me in this anymore now as well, because France looked pretty vulnerable against Hungary. I was surprised by that.
Hungary's not a terrible team. People just think that they're not terrible. They're not
Name 3
great,
players,
but they're not. I don't know how to say their names.
I know
Shalai, Nagy,
yeah.
and there's 2 players with the same name I don't know how to say. It's Slazi or something.
There you go.
Okay, well,
I just named 4. 2 of them.
They're not a terrible team
because I don't know any of them.
They've definitely benefited from playing at home in front of 70,000 people.
1,000%, twice.
And like loads of ultras behind the goal and stuff. And see how hyped he got when he scored that goal. He started slapping water bottles off the table. I'm like, fair enough. That's the best experience of a game on TV that there's been at the Euros because fans are there. Everything else feels so diluted and sanitized and shit. It's like training football at times. And I think England suffered from that on Friday night when we needed somewhat just to G us up.
I think Scotland's just good, man.
Mate, I was surprised. They were organised. We've seen it for Milan so many times this season where teams come, put men behind the ball, and even though we're clearly the superior team, we couldn't break them down. That's what happens. The best teams in the world, when they put men behind the ball, struggle. You're not going to score 6 against a team that plays 6 at the back. It's just doesn't happen. And we didn't look up for it either. And Kane's not having a good tournament. I was worried that he wouldn't with his future so up in the air. But anyway, this isn't Sempre England or Sempre Euros. But we'll probably come back to it next week when Hakan's signed his renewal. No doubt.
And England's been eliminated.
By Wales or something.
I could only hope.
Hey, who did they play in the last game? They got one more game, right?
Yeah, we got Czech Republic on Tuesday night.
And you guys have 4 points?
Basically, if we draw on Tuesday night, we both go through. So I think that they're going to play very similar to how Scotland did. They're certainly not going to commit loads of bodies forward. So it'd be another good test for us to see if we can finally break a team down. But I think he'll also rotate players. Like, what's the point? We're going to be
small
okay.
hands Pickford in that, man. You guys are going to concede a goal for sure.
T-Rex Pickford made a couple of good saves on Friday night. They had the better chances.
Yeah, he only has one good game, and now you're done.
You can sell him. Now I'd sell him if the offers come in. Yeah, that's it, innit? I think. Try to keep it under an hour.
I believe so, yeah.
Brilliant. Right, well, thank you very much for listening if you made it this far. As I said at the start of the episode, make sure to check out the merchandise design. Make sure to check out the other stuff that we've got on YouTube. Maddie started a new series where he's interviewing leaders of various Milan fan clubs from around the world. They're going to be dropping, we think, once a fortnight on a Friday. And we've got the Milan drawn stuff as well. And obviously Stefano's videos as well. So subscribe and turn on notifications so you're first to every video. Leave a like and a comment as well. That'd be much appreciated. Good for the old algorithms and that. And yeah, keep checking our Twitter. I'm going to do a giveaway of the new shirt at some point this week. Our T-shirt, not the Milan shirt, although we might do that as well. But yeah, stay tuned for that on Twitter this week coming. And I've been your host, Ollie Fisher, joined by Maddie.
I love being second in line here. I just know
I'm hating this.
Been a good one. I don't know how. And that AJ, I think it's your turn to sign off.
There you go.
If anyone wants their clubs featured on the Milan Club World Series, just DM the SempreMilan TV account. We'll get in contact. And AJ, it's up to you.
There you go. We all just point the wrong direction.
Yeah,
no, it's been fun. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much.
Oliver's the only one who can make this podcast last an hour, by the way.
Yeah.
Mate, you've got to have the magic touch. And there it goes now. Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and we'll catch you in a week's time.
Bella palla per Rebic, Ibra, Rebic, il tiro, gol!